Hello and welcome back to RamsTalkPodcast, and we are here today looking ahead to an away game at Watford. Gone are the days where we could look forward to going to an away team and thinking, yeah, we'll turn up, we'll give them a really good game and probably beat them. It's only scary games from now on. So joining me today to talk all about it, I've got the entirety of the Do Not Scratch Your Eyes podcast. It's a bit of a Rams Talk preview first, but firstly joining me, we've got Pete. How are you, mate?
Hello, sir. Yeah, very good. Thank you for having us here.
No problem. We've also got Justin. How are you, pal?
I'm all right, Jake. Very good, mate. Very good.
Good man. And last but certainly not least, we've got Carlos. How are you, mate?
I'm very well, mate. Thank you for having us.
Perfect. It's a pleasure. I've just had a lot of fun on their podcast, so check that out if you've if you've not heard of these guys before. They're very, very good. Had a lot of fun talking about Derby on there and lots of other things too. So I guess the first question, I'll come to you first, Pete, is just asking about Watford in general, because I think for a lot of people, you've kind of been bouncing between the Championship and the Premier League for quite some time now. I remember you had a phase where you sacked a manager every 5 minutes. I mean, give us a bit of a history lesson on Watford. What sort of club are you, and what are your sort of crowning achievements?
Crowning achievements. Well, Derby fans who remember the 80s will remember Graham Taylor. We had two eras of Graham Taylor, and glory and wonderment kind of followed. We were a fourth division side in 1977. He took us inside of 5 years to the top flight, and in our first season in the top flight, we came runners up to the glorious Liverpool team of the early 80s, which could never be beaten. Needless to say, we got to the FA Cup final the next year, and Europe and all of this sort of stuff. But it was, relatively speaking, short-lived, because we are still kind of a relatively speaking smaller club as a commuter town of London. That's the honest truth. He departed. Things went wrong and awry until he came back again, and then he repeated the trick, taking us from League what is now League One, but the third tier, again up to the top flight. We've had a couple of kind of jumps up there, but pretty much since he came in, we went from being a bottom two division side, as in fourth or third division using old money, to being really a championship club with some opportunities to kind of go up and stay up, until 2012, when the Pozzo family arrived, and we started sacking managers like it was going out of fashion. But before we started firing managers, ironically, they were quite consistent. And then the season when we got promoted, and this is what a lot of people forget, we had 4 managers in the season that we got promoted. It kind of completely daft. It's completely counterintuitive. And we got up, and they kept us in the top flight for 5 years. We went down, they got us back up again. So we've had 6 years. In that time, we've also had an FA Cup final, which, we got pummeled by Man City, but we were at least in the final. We had that and 2 semi-finals. And that actually mirrors exactly what Graham Taylor had done with his first era with us. So we've got these guys, pretty much the double relegation effectively, and COVID, like a lot of clubs, but it absolutely wiped us completely out. We were one of those Premier League clubs who were like 85 to 90% of our revenue was TV related. So when you drop out and the parachute money dries up, there isn't an awful lot there. And at the moment we've got pretty slim pickings. Up until, if you look back at the close season, nobody has been particularly happy with the transfer windows that have come in. But we've appointed Tom Cleverley. He got the last 9 games last season and secured not only our status, but a bit of a feel-good factor. And in the last couple of league games, we've beaten Millwall away. We pretty much hammered Stoke, who were okay in the first half, but were nowhere close in the second. And so now we're feeling a little bit more optimistic, but we still would like to have some signings, please, because we are short in some pivotal areas.
Well, you summed it up quite nicely there, Pete. I mean, Justin, I was going to bring that up. You started the season. I remember before the season started, seeing a lot of concerned Watford fans. Like you mentioned, there's not been a massive amount of transfer business done, but you've started the season on fire. A 3-2 win away at Millwall, which was a bit of a classic in itself. A 5-0 pummeling of MK Dons, and then a 3-0 battering of Stoke as well. I mean, did you expect that start to the season?
No. And if you saw how we were in pre-season, well, no one did. And if you saw how we were in pre-season as well, we were terrible. We had a really bad pre-season. So it's come as a massive surprise, but it hasn't taken me long to look at it and think, okay, maybe there is something happening, which for me is really, really unusual because I'm usually the critical, negative, pessimistic, oh, we're not going to do it kind of person. And just something feels as though there might have been a corner turned, and I don't really know what it is. I think, I mean, if I had to narrow it down to a player, a single player, I think they're all doing pretty well. But Dosanjh looks like he's going to be pivotal this season. He really does look like a very, very good player. But yeah, no, this is an absolute surprise, and I'm happy to sort of ride this wave while we can, because at the moment we're looking good.
Yeah, you certainly are. I mean, there's quite a few players in that team. I've got it up in front of me. I mean, Dosanjh. I remember seeing him at the Euros and thinking, oh, he looked all right. And I saw he played for Watford. I thought, for God's sake. Chance of that. That's so
in
unfair.
fairness, we were looking at him and saying, who's that? He looks good. Oh, we got him. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, Carlos, I mean, to touch on that early season form, you know, I did watch the highlights of that Stoke game before we started recording this, and I did think, you know, 2 of the goals were probably pretty monumental goalkeeping errors, but you created a lot of chances and got in those areas. Do you think it's sustainable, the form that you've got at the moment?
Oh, sorry, is it Carlos's question?
It is Carlos.
Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry. Do you want?
I thought that was carrying on. Okay.
Bless him.
Radio professional, everybody. Carry on.
Radio professional. No, it has been a brilliant start, and as Justin's alluded to, it wasn't expected, but you know, I think he's right in what he says there. That there's definitely something in the group in that starting 11 that seemed to be pushing on. Dosanjh, Kiembe, I'll also mention as well. I thought, you know, he scored 2 goals at the weekend, but just the biggest change for me is the work rate and the effort that's being put in. You can see that now. We've had a few seasons where the players just look disinterested. They're not fighting for the shirt, and it's been a bit of a toxic atmosphere, quite honestly, over the last couple of seasons. So very quickly, just by these players putting the effort in and changing it up a gear or two, it's changed the whole mood around the club. And you know, I think as a visiting team that are coming to Vicarage Road, it's going to be a bit boisterous, because for me, I said at the beginning of the season, Stoke are going to be up there. They're going to be in and around the playoffs, I thought, you know, with their transfer business. But we absolutely put them to the sword on Saturday, and that's a massive thing for us, that we're killing teams off, because we've got a tradition of going 1-0 up, even 2-0 up. We started to show it against Millwall in the first game of the season. You know, can't finish our dinner, and we managed to get that victory at the end at Millwall, and have really just sort of stepped it up a couple of gears. So it's very positive at the moment, but it is early doors.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, you mentioned that change in atmosphere there, Carlos. I mean, Pete, you know, Tom Cleverley, as we said at the start, he came in towards the end of last season, was given that time. Now he's got the full-time job. I mean, we've seen it at Derby. We had a lot of off the pitch issues for a really long time. We had a lot of managers that were causing chaos. And there were loads of rumours all the time about, you know, managers falling out with the owner. I mean, everyone seemed to do that, but everyone was falling out with everyone, and there was no harmony. And then recently we've got new ownership, we've got new management, and everything seems to have calmed down. Like everything at Derby, they talk about Paul Warne and the impact he's had behind the scenes. Do you think it's a similar sort of thing with Tom Cleverley? Has he sort of managed to pull everyone together, and is that what's got you firing?
I think it's a lot of people, the moment it got made as an interim role previously, went, oh, it's the cheap option, isn't it? He's in the building. Because he what people might not know is he's played more games as a player for Watford than any of his other clubs. So he's been with us. You know, he came on loan in 2009, ripped the place up, took the Player Season award, went away, and we all watched him kind of vicariously and enjoyed it. And then he came back to us again. He's taken it very personally that he rejoined us in the Premiership, and we're in the Championship now. And he went and had by all accounts, a very good kind of first 7 or 8 months with the under 18s. The important thing is whether or not he was inexpensive or not. We've tried everything else. We've gone through literally 22 managers in the times that they've been here. We've tried everything else. Bringing somebody in who's been in the building, who knows the idiosyncrasies of the ownership and the club management, and they are idiosyncrasies. They are odd. In comparison to kind of normal behavior, is absolute genius, because he knows their maneuvers, he knows what they're doing. More importantly, he knows them. And the general consensus of opinion is that whilst the owner appears to be losing interest, lacking interest, and more kind of looking to stabilise Udinese, who is our kind of sister club, if you will, and they nearly went down, apart from kind of last knock-ins of the final game of the season. They're all over Udinese saying we're so sorry, we need to do stuff and spending money, and we have been left with not an awful lot. But most importantly, what we have been left with is Tom Cleverley and a management team who have brought about changes at the club. They've given players who were nowhere close to it real chances, and they've made a real difference. And so when we were talking and you were talking about having a good 11, but thereafter kind of question around depth, we would have exactly that same question, apart from the fact that we've now got people on the bench who are game changers. And and suddenly you're looking at those last 20, 20, 30 minutes or what have you of the game. And we've got people who we might not have fancied before under Tom, entirely different prospect, entirely different. Nobody more so than somebody formerly of your parish, Tom Ince, who was signed last year. He had his last game in the 25th of November, his last start. Didn't do very much, and he was just kind of not really used. Fell out with, the manager we previously had. Basically, just fell out with everybody. Valerian Ismail. He just kind of seemed to fall out with everybody. You mentioned the MK Dons game. He got a hat trick. Yes, the MK Dons goalkeeper could claim an assist for at least 2, possibly 3 of those. But suddenly we've got somebody and everybody in the building finally pushing in the same direction rather than a toxic dressing room. So no, we're very thrilled that he's here.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly sounds that way, and it certainly sounds like everything's starting to turn around behind the scenes. And you mentioned Tom Ince there. I'm glad you mentioned him because he was someone I was going to bring up later on. He was a bit of a hero of mine. When he signed for Derby, he came in and as a loan player scored 11 or 12 goals in a season where we really sort of struggled towards the end. Signed him on a permanent, and he was excellent. He scored some really important goals for us, and I thought he was probably our best player. And then we sold him to Huddersfield for sort of 12 million, I think it was. Brought in Tom Lawrence, who was rubbish. So we really, really missed Tom Ince when he went. And Justin, I just want to ask, he said he hadn't played in quite some time. How's he doing? Is he all right?
Well, yeah, like Peter said, I mean, he came in last season, and I think eyebrows were raised. We paid 50 grand for him, I think.
Yeah.
And I was that our biggest signing? I'm trying to think.
No, Rovic.
Oh, Rovic. Okay. So he came in for 50 grand, and we were like, okay, Tom Ince for 50 grand, we'll see. Didn't figure very much at all, and he looked very good against Milton Keynes last Tuesday. But like Peter said, the goalkeeper perhaps was having a bad day because he just didn't look that good at all. But look, he scored a hat trick, and we cheered him on. Not too sure I like the chant that's going out for him that's been stolen off another player because I don't think he deserves that. But no, like Peter said, he could be a very good impact sub this season. Could really be a good impact sub.
And one of the reasons why that's working is because of a change of shape. So, I mean, the change of shape is that previously Tom Ince was stuck out on the right as an unorthodox or an inverted winger, and he still got a couple of assists and still got a couple of goals with reasonable numbers, genuinely, but them just didn't get played in the second half of the season. Now we're playing a different formation that's bringing those kind of characters in more centrally, which is why Chak Fatadze, why KMB, and why Tom Ince, even in the cup, are really kind of becoming attacking threats, which we've not had previously.
Well, that's something to look forward to then for the weekend, which is great to hear. I mean, you've mentioned a lot of attacking players there, Carlos. I just want to ask you. I've got the team up in front of me. Obviously, when you look on FOTMob, you've got the average ratings of all the players. You've had a blistering start, and every player's on like a 7 or an 8 or a 9 average rating across the season, which makes it look very scary. But who's sort of impressed you the most?
Oh, there's a couple. I mean, somebody that I really wanted him to do well in a Watford shirt, and he's had to go out and loan a couple of times to kind of find himself. But this season really looks like not only just a leader as well, but one hell of a defender is Matty Pollock. He struggled really when he came in. I remember seeing him again away at Millwall. We got hammered 3-0, and he just had a torrid time. Just didn't look didn't look really that he should be playing at that level. He was that bad that night, but he's gone away, gone to Aberdeen, somewhere else as well. Vaguely remember, but
he went to Cheltenham in his first season.
Cheltenham, that was right. Yeah, but he's come back in this season and he looks the real part. Tom Dele-Bashiru as well for me, another player that promised so much. Man City Academy, we've seen glimpses of him, but again this season he looks like he's a player that can pick the ball up. It sits slightly deeper than I would expect him to, but that's probably because we have Chetfordadze, who really just picks the play up and drags us up the other end of the pitch. That's the biggest thing for me that he does. He just gets us going. But yeah, honestly and truthfully, at the moment, it's really hard to pick players that are in a sort of bad run of form. We've even got Ciarelto, who we haven't seen really for 2 seasons, maybe.
Yeah.
Really, roughly, and he's started, I think, every game, barring maybe the MK Dons game. But again, just another player that's come out of nowhere, and that's probably says a lot about Tom. He's got players that want to play for him, and he's picking them on form at the moment, which is good.
Yeah, that's what you want, isn't it, from a manager? You want the manager to bring the players and get the best out of them. I think you see a lot of managers that sort of, it feels a little bit like they're sort of doing it for themselves sometimes rather than doing it for the players around them. So yeah, that's certainly a good trait for him to have. Pete, I've been told you're the man to ask about this. So tactics, let's go into it. Let's go into it. Now, Derby, they tend to approach games home and away very differently. And by very differently, I mean we sit even deeper when we're away from home. Some would say that's impossible, but we somehow managed to do it. How do you sort of approach games home and away, and how can Derby expect you to set up on Saturday?
Well, so far this season, because it has changed from Tom's interim period where he had 9 games at the back end of last season, we play with 3 at the back. It's been sort of interesting because Wesley Hoot, who was our player of the season last year, who was a left-footed centre-back who's really kind of found a spiritual home, having kind of wandered all over the place and not been kind of there. Suddenly he's come in and we've gone, he can kick the ball really hard, really well, brilliant. And he's like that very much. So he's done that okay. He got injured in pre-season, having been linked to Turkey. Was that the Chiltern Express going past?
No, it wasn't. No, that was somebody just tooting their horn for us. Yeah.
As you do. We come in, we bring effects with us. Never mind. So we play 3 at the back. We then play 2 wing backs and 2 central midfielders, shall we say, Tom Dele-Bashiru and Sissoko. That gives us a 3 and a 4 in front of them. That then allows us to play 2 number 10s, which is where the genius comes in, because the thing that everybody outside of Watford will associate the Pozzo family with is sacking managers. We associate them with going off and signing players who are number 10s, basically. That's who we sign. And then we've signed managers who don't play with number 10s. They come and go, no, we're going to play you as an inverted winger. We're going to stick you just basically just south of Hemel Hempstead and see what you can do. Tom has been, as I say, Tom Cleverley has been in the club. He knows what these guys can do, and he's put in square pegs in square holes, and it's a joy to see. One of the little idiosyncrasies over the last couple of games, and because of Wesley Hoot's injury, him being out, is the fact that Pollock, as Carlos has said, has come in and is amazing. Even better, the fact that at Millwall, which was the place where his horror show of his first, within 5 minutes of his Watford professional debut, he'd done a dreadful header, and it gave the first goal away. They won it 3-0, and you just saw he never recovered. A couple of loans later, he's got a bit of gumption about him, and he's come back. And down at Millwall the other day, he was basically, he would literally throw himself in head first. So if you've seen any,
wasn't he? He was a warrior.
You'll see. Yeah, he's doing this impression of Terry Butcher from the 80s and the 90s, with the head bandage, and he just doesn't care. He was made captain in the League Cup, and he was delighted at the fact. And he's one of these. I know he said kids. He's one of these, players who has stuck about because he wants to make it. He doesn't want to be jettisoned. He wants to do it here. And when you have that, you get a connection with the player, which is remarkable. On the left side of the 3, at the moment, we've got a little lad called James Morris. And if I was an opposition manager, I might turn around and go, let's kind of pinpoint him because he's shorter, and we'll threaten him aerially. He's not showy. He's not egotistical. He is a complete squad player, and he goes wherever he is put. He's really a left back, but him playing that left-sided left back allows us, or left back, centre back, allows when we push on from the wing backs and they get forward and then some. He just slots into that left side, and he has been faultless. He has been absolutely faultless, and yet people have thrown brickbats at him for being, the covering left back, because we haven't had a left back in the building. We've made a couple of signings, including a lad called Larucci, who was on loan at Sheffield United. We've only seen the second half, but it was the second half against Stoke, whereby we knew that who we'd got playing left wing back was not doing the job that we needed him to do in an attacking sense. This guy he's fast, he's rapid, but he might leave gaps in behind. So you've got Morris there, who's very unshowy, very unegotistical, goes in and just snuffs what he needs to do, which is very good. And then we have one forward, and none of them can do anything apart from Rovic scored the last minute winner against Millwall. We signed somebody, and he basically, he's fantastic if the ball is 9 yards away from the goal and there is no one there. He's brilliant at that. He does nothing outside of the box, but against MK Dons, he's showing signs of improvement again under Tom. Even he is not being kind of jeered and having the mickey taken out of them, because you can see he is trying, and he's trying to not only work on what he's good at, he's actually trying to improve on what he's not.
Well, that's definitely interesting, and that leads quite nicely into my next question for you, Justin. You've mentioned there's a lot of good things about Watford, the way they're shaping up, the way they're playing tactically, the way players are performing. But have you seen any weaknesses in the opening few games that potentially Derby, if we actually leave our own half, could exploit?
Like Peter said, James Morris perhaps, because he is playing slightly out of position and he is shorter and not quite as physical. We've only conceded 2 goals, haven't we? And that was against Millwall. I'm trying to think how they went down. I can't really see any, massive weaknesses at the moment, which is odd because the last few seasons there's been nothing but weaknesses. And I could have told you last year, yes, there's one, decent player and the rest of them are terrible. I can't really think of any weaknesses, to be honest with you, Jake. But from what I've seen so far this season, can anybody think of any weaknesses that we may have?
I think that left side could always be a little bit
Ngakia playing on the left-hand side at the back fills me a little bit with dread, I have to say.
And we have a goalkeeper that's idea of distribution is just close your eyes and kick it and just hope it goes somewhere. So probably one of the best shot stoppers in the league, without doubt. But in terms of distribution, has got a bit of a rick in him now and again.
I think the other thing, but it's the same thing with the goalkeeper. Although I think he's slightly better. But during the COVID season, we all remember that Ben Foster got, I can't remember if he was injured or just out of form or what have you. And Daniel Bachmann, our goalkeeper, came in first time he came in, and a player that you recently had, Martin Waghorn, came in under Wayne Rooney. You caused him all sorts of problems by putting corners right down his throat and attacking it with numbers. And it was the first time, because Bachmann's a very good shot stopper. 1-on-1, I think he stopped one on Saturday, for example. Didn't have much to do, but what he had to do, he did well. But he's taking the ball aerially under pressure, like a lot of goalkeepers in the Championship, because I don't think we've got great forwards, but I think the goalkeepers in the Championship this year are absolute pony from what I've seen. He can sometimes, that would be what I would be doing. I'd be going back, looking at that, saying that's the guy, that's the pressure we put on. You've got the little guy at the left back. I'd be quite happy for anybody to pinpoint James Morris because he's so quietly effective. He's a baby-faced assassin, basically, but he doesn't get appreciated because he's not showy. He's not egotistical. He can get left out of the game or out of the team, not sulk, and just comes in, and every time he has not let anybody down. Sometimes people take against people, but I think those would be the weaknesses.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, Derby's main thing has been set pieces since Paul Warne came in, and we've got some big lads at the back that can get themselves into the box. Sully Bradley will definitely play with Erin Cashin missing with a concussion, so he's probably our best aerial threat as well. So that kind of bodes well a little bit for us if we can get some set pieces in that area. And I've just remembered that last game now, because I remember we got a goal disallowed and Andre Wisdom didn't move. I think someone ran into him and fell over, and I think it would have been a late equaliser or something about that. I don't know why we were talking about this the other day. So not still bitter about it. It's been a few years now. I'm sure we can move on.
On our podcast, I complained about a 3-4 defeat from 1994. I think you're perfectly within the statute of limitations for complaining about that kind of thing.
It's only 4 years before I was born, to be fair, Pete. So yeah, I can understand that.
But I'm not feeling any worse after that.
And Carlos, before we get into a little bit of an away fan guide, we talked a lot about attackers, but Kayembe, now he's your top goal scorer at the minute. He's scored 3 goals. We've not actually mentioned him a lot so far. What sort of player is he?
A workhorse, really. I forget what the stat was off the top of my head, but I think it was 3 goals in the last 2 seasons or something he scored. It's not many at all. He's not really what you would call an out-and-out goal scorer, but in terms of hard work and graft, he's up there. He really is. And this season, he's, I don't want to say a midfield general, because he's not out there, sticking people into row Z, left, right and centre. But again, he's one of those players that just seems to do the basics really well. And so far, he's managed a really good sort of relationship in that midfield in the start of the season. He was probably the player that we were kind of all hoping that we would keep. Sort of Mr. Dependable, I guess, is probably the way to sum him up. But he's blown me away with his performances so far, and long may that continue. But he just does the simple things really well. That's the sort of player he is.
At the start of last season, nobody would believe how he is now revered. He got selected to go with the Democratic Republic of Congo to play for AFCON, and he got injured, sod's law, on the 1st of January away at Plymouth. So he didn't end up going in the end. But we were all saying, oh, God, we're losing Kayembe. You could not believe what a reversal that is. And again, with Tom, he plays in one of the number 10 roles. But what tends to happen is, or so far, I would suggest what's happened is we'll play the first half to try to make sure we're negating anything that you're doing. And then we'll go, right, okay, now we'll put the forward thinking guys in. Kayembe is fantastic because he was playing at deep line midfield, and he's very left-footed, and he'd look kind of awkward if he was pressed on occasions. But him playing further forward, him then dropping in slightly from that position, doing great defensive work makes us really solid. But then when he goes forward, he can finish, and we found him spanking one in with his right foot. Bearing in mind his nickname is Left Foot Lenny, you can tell we all went, what? We just thought he stood on it. It was kind of, a lot of players have really come out of themselves under Tom this season. So fingers crossed it carries on.
I think the way the things tie together in a way is our first goal this season was scored directly from a corner by Kayembe. And you're going, okay, didn't have that down as our first goal of the season. And that's kind of where the whole roller coaster has started already. So to tie the two things together, he's I'm liking the look of him now, Kayembe. I did like him last season, but now I think he's going to be pivotal this season.
He did quite funnily in an interview after the game on Saturday, where he got 2 goals. So of course they said, well, that kind of the goal. How was it? He said, well, it's a bit difficult. Yeah, obviously it was a difficult game, obviously because of the heat. You're from the Democratic Republic of Congo, man. Honestly, you've been in Watford
different heat.
Different heat, yeah.
No, that's definitely interesting. I think, to be honest, hopefully it might help us out, because if you're not expecting it, or if you think we're going to come at you, then think again. We'll see how it goes. So, just want to ask a bit of a question. I'll put it out to the room. We're asking this year for a little bit of an away fan guide. We get a lot of people asking, where's the best place to go? Where's the best pub to go to if you're an away fan? Where's good to park? Because that's always really hard, especially when you go down south. Is there anything in Watford you'd want to go and see? God, I'll throw it out there to the room. Give us a little bit of a guide to Watford, and where should we go?
Nearest car park, I would suggest for public car parking would be Church, which is on the Ring Road, unless you want to pay fancy prices for specific football parking, which you probably don't. So I'd say that Church is probably the nearest car park, although most of them in the town you can walk to the ground from most of the car parks in the town. So that's that. Is the Oddfellows open, Carl?
Yeah, Oddfellows is the away designated pub. So that's the one that's specifically for away fans. The Moon Underwater, which is a Wetherspoons, is a mixed one right in the town centre. 10-minute walk, 15-minute walk max. Again, that's right. But there's a couple on the way to the ground which are home fans only. And the Red Lion, which is right outside the away end, is home fans only, which
I'll avoid that one.
Yeah, avoid that one. Yeah, but no, it's and as I say, I think the biggest thing for anybody that's not been down here for a long time, for whatever reason, there is no alcohol sold in the away end at Watford. So make sure you get your beers in before you get inside the ground, because you'll be thoroughly disappointed if not.
And anything to see in Watford? Any sights?
Well, there's the Harry Potter Studios just up the road, but you're going to want to have to do that very, very early before you come in, or the next day. It's not that far from the ground. It is a drive, but it's not, a million miles away. We do have some nice murals around the ground now. So we've got one of Elton John, one of Graham Taylor, and there's a subway which you might see if you come from the Church car park that's got lots of Watford legends on it. But I can't really think of anything else that you'd want to do. I always do this for oppositions. I always pick like a weird place to go for opposition when we play away. And to think about your own hometown, it's not blessed with amenities, is it really, for away fans? Anyway,
Are you on commission for the Church car park? I mean, possibly the least imaginatively named car park ever. What's that? It's a church. What, Church car park? There you go.
The church. Yes, it's next to St Mary's Church.
If you like the smell of urine, it's the place for you.
Oh yeah, yeah, and people in tents. It's fantastic. I can't think of anywhere else that you'd probably want to go when we're in Watford.
Watford's. I mean, we're quite. This is no disrespect to Derby. We're at this. Our stadium is a proper, what I would call, football ground. It's right in the heart of the town. So you're 10 minutes away from the town centre after or before the game. And there's plenty to do in the town. There's some good eateries and whatever. We've got the shopping centre, which I will still call the Harlequin, although it's not called the Harlequin, but I have to. That's decent enough. You can have a wander through there. There's plenty of pubs and stuff. It's fine. Derby fans will be more than comfortable. I vaguely remember going out to Pride Park. It's a bit out of the way, isn't it?
A little bit.
So yeah. So we're not that. We are very much an old school ground. So you'll be fine.
Love it. Love it. Love to hear it.
How are you getting here? How are you getting down, Jake?
Part car, part train. So yeah, we'll work it out. We'll work it out when we get there. But one final question for the room. I'll start with you, Pete. Give us a score prediction. Go on. What are you thinking?
Oh, I don't do score predictions.
You do.
Oh, okay.
But you are now.
I'm gonna go 1-1. Because I never let anybody else go 1-1, so I'm going to take that simply to annoy the other two to my list.
Touche.
Go on, Justin. What do you reckon?
We're going to win 2-0, mate. I think.
Nice, Carlos.
I'll say 2-1 to Watford. I just think we've. I don't know. You never know with what's going to happen in the Championship. It's a bonkers league, but we've got a decent run of form, and the fact it's a home game, I think if it was up at your place next, it may be a different set of circumstances, but I do fancy us on Saturday, and I will be proved horribly wrong now I've said that.
And because there's no outrageous rules on this podcast about score predictions, I think head-wise, I'm going to say probably a 2-1 defeat if I'm being honest, but heart-wise, 1-1. I think we've got what it takes. I think we really do. It's just if we can withstand that onslaught towards the end of the game where we lack that depth, and you've just got that quality. So let's hope for Derby's sake that it's 1-1. But yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised if we came back with nothing. So, right, lads, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. If you're listening and you did enjoy, please do leave a like. Please do subscribe. You know the script by now. Give us a vote in the SCAs if it's still open. It's probably not, but if it is, please vote for us. We're also doing the yeah, sore subject.
What did you make of the pies, Jake?
Oh, I don't want to talk about it. I was still hungry 5 minutes later.
Yeah, we all were.
Um,
I've heard it's going to be possibly in London-based this year.
that'd be nice. That would be nice.
Be nice for us.
Yeah, it definitely would. I've lost where I was going now.
Sorry.
We're doing the Rams Talk run the length of every away game this season, which is over 3,400 kilometres. So if you want to donate to that, please do. £5 feeds a child for 3 days. So we'd be very grateful if you could donate to that. And yeah, I'm sure we'll see you all soon, lads. We usually do a thing at the end of episodes. Usually we don't do it if there's only 2 of us. It's a bit cringe, but we do it anyway, where we're basically in order as we go across the screen, say, and it's goodbye from me, and then a little parting comment or something like that. So I'll say, it's been RamsTalkPodcast. Goodbye from me.
And it's Pete from Do Not Scratch Your Eyes. It's goodbye from me. Travel safe.
And it's Justin from Do Not Scratch Your Eyes. See you Saturday. You Orns.
And he didn't say goodbye from me there, so I'll say goodbye from him and also goodbye from me.
I should have done the comedy ending, shouldn't I?
Brilliant, lads. Thank you so much. We'll